Airways has announced that limited repatriation flights will operate from Doha starting on March 7th. These flights will serve London, Paris, Madrid, Rome, and Frankfurt, prioritizing stranded families, elderly passengers, and those with urgent medical needs. Scheduled commercial operations remain suspended as Qatar Airspace continues to be closed due to the regional conflict. Passengers have been directly contacted with assigned flights and are urged not to travel unless officially notified. The airline has confirmed that safety and passenger well-being remain the highest priority during the disruption. Additional relief flights are being organized where possible, and updates will be provided once confirmed. Global air travel continues to face major disruptions as regional airports in the Middle East, including Dubai, Doha, and Abu Dhabi, remain closed following the escalation of the Iran conflict. Now we welcome back Mr. Sol Sadka. He joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for staying with us. Now, building on earlier discussion and looking at this now, how is energy prices how is this conflict reflecting on energy prices and also the flights that are being cancelled? What do you think all the countries should be doing to protect their citizens or to evacuate them safe and sound as soon as possible?
Well, the flights are returning slowly to the Middle East until the Iranian drone threat is eliminated completely or nearly completely, which might happen in a week or two. My guess is that full operations in these Gulf states, which really are within drone range, an easy drone range of Iran, will not operate fully. The people of the Gulf countries are learning what the Israelis have learned over 15 years, which is how to act when there is an incoming rocket or drone, and that will improve. And hopefully this will be ended relatively soon. As regards to the oil prices have ticked up to around $90 a barrel from the 70 that they were at before this all kicked off. And it's entirely plausible that it will continue to rise. However, the oil market is now bifurcated around the world. Different countries pay different prices depending on how things work for them. The United States is very unlikely to be significantly affected by any rise in the oil prices coming out of the Gulf, only because Trump has a trick up his sleeve, that he has the strategic oil reserve that he has not so far opened up, but he could. And if prices started to rise beyond a level that he thought the American public were comfortable with, he could open up the strategic reserve of oil and get oil flowing again. The urgency, however, is to wind up hostilities along the Persian Gulf coast as fast as possible and to push the IRGC away from the coastline to ensure they're unable to fire drones and fast boats and threaten shipping. And I'm sure that is the absolute priority of the Americans at the moment. That's what they are focusing on, while the Israelis are more focused up in the north. The Americans have been focusing on the Persian Gulf coast and destroying the entire Navy and finding any small boats that could be used to attack shipping and finding the nests of drones and eliminating them to prevent any kind of trouble. Also dealing with various mines that might be placed in the waters of the Gulf. And once that's all set up, then the Americans will have complete control of the Persian Gulf. That is probably their number one priority at this point, I would say.
Mr. Sadka, also, if we know that this Operation Epic Fury was in the process of making for a long time, then why didn't they have a strategy to protect all these ships and oil companies operating in the Strait of Hormuz, since they knew that this is going to be a hot point, this is going to be affected eventually?
Now, this is a really good question, and my assumption is that they do indeed have such a strategy, and it's currently being put into place. This was always going to be the most difficult nut to crack, because the Gulf is a shallow body of water surrounded on most of its coastline by Iran, full of nooks and crannies and coves and bays. And it needs continual surveillance to ensure that someone cannot shoot out from the coastline and attack a ship, and these ships are vulnerable. So that's going to be the next stage, I'm quite sure, to completely close down any threat to shipping in the Straits of Hormuz.
Thank you.
Whether it succeeds or not is uncertain, but my guess would be yes. The Americans have proved themselves quite adept at this kind of thing in the past.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for sharing that. Please do stay with us as we come back to you. Now, moving on, White House has halted the release of a federal security bulletin warning of heightened threats to the United States amid the conflict in Iran. The bulletin, prepared by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Intelligence and Analysis, the FBI, and the National Counterterrorism Center, is meant for state and local law enforcement agencies. A Trump administration official told Reuters the White House requested a review to ensure the bulletin is accurate and properly written before distribution. According to the official, the draft did not provide sufficient insight and was not clearly written, leading to the decision to temporarily halt its release. The White House said it is coordinating closely with federal agencies to make sure all information is accurate and vetted, even if it requires additional time. Since the start of the conflict, the United States has conducted multiple charter flights to evacuate thousands of Americans from the Middle East amid the largest U.S. military operations in the region since 2003. Now we welcome back Mr. Sol Sadka. He's joining us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadka, for staying with us. Why do you think, the release of Federal Security Bulletin has been delayed?
Sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Yeah, so the White House has halted the release of a Federal Security Bulletin. So why do you think this was delayed?
Well, we'll find out when it comes out. There are all sorts of reasons why the White House might do that, for reasons of operational security and the safety of troops and so on. There could be very many reasons, and in reality, there's much more that's happening regarding this war that we, the public, do not know than we do know. We are only seeing the tip of the iceberg of everything that's going on at the moment, and that's for a number of reasons. First of all, because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of security on the American side about what is released, but also because the internet is cut off in Iran, and so the amount of information getting out of there is very, very limited. So between all this, there's a tremendous fog of war, a fog of war that's particularly heavy on the spectators, us, we who are not personally involved in the war, actively in Iran, but also, and this is actually the point, on the IRGC themselves. So the IRGC, before the war started, arranged for their armies, the rocket-firing armies, to break up into 31 different groups, or so they say, and then sent them off in all the directions, and they're now completely out of communication with each other. So this is the reason, whereas in previous wars, rounds of fighting with Iran, Israel would provide a daily tally of how many missiles and drones came into the country and how many were shot down. That information is no longer available. Now, the reason the Israelis are doing that is because they know how many missiles have come in, but no one in Iran knows how many missiles they've shot because of their breakdown, their deliberate breakdown in information. So as a result, for that reason, they are not going to make it easy for the Iranians to know how many missiles they're firing. The answer is, by the way, very few, and almost none of them are getting through to Israeli towns and cities and causing damage. In fact, only 2 in the past 8 days of war. The Iranians have fired at least 500 of their 2,000 missiles at Israel, and they have caused 10 casualties. Only 2 of those missiles had lethal effects, one in Tel Aviv and one about an hour outside Tel Aviv in a city called Beit Shemesh, where 9 people were killed by one rocket. That has been the entire effect of the Iranian ballistic missile arsenal on Israel, which is why, as you can see with the Americans and the Israelis, they're being very cagey about the information they allow to get out, because they know the information they have could be useful to their enemy, who is currently completely blinded by the fog of war.
With that, I'd like to thank Mr. Sol Sadka for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news.